Believe it or not, the first Final Fantasy I ever tried was the Final Fantasy Legend for the Game Boy. My cousin had a copy and I decided to try it, though I was too young to really understand what I was doing. But it stuck with me, especially when I was properly introduced to the RPG juggernaut with Final Fantasy VII. So imagine my surprise when I eventually learned that the Final Fantasy Legend wasn't Final Fantasy at all, but instead the first game in the Saga series. Yet I never took the time to try any other Saga game. Despite that, it was hard not to notice how excited fans were when Square Enix announced back in June that Romancing SaGa 2, one of the most beloved and best-selling games in the series, was getting a full remake. And after playing it for quite some time myself, I totally understand why. Of course, I need to thank Square Enix, who supplied an early copy of the remake and is sponsoring this video. And look, I know it's easy to see something marked as an ad and disregard it, but I promise you that this is coming from a legitimate place. Romancing SaGa 2 Revenge of the Seven has been an utter delight to play. It is also the best way to get in the series, as the original Super Famicom release in 1993 took some time to come to the West. Thankfully, its remaster for mobile and Vita was localized, and that version was ported to the Switch and other modern consoles. But that version maintained the 16-bit aesthetic and many of its archaic decisions. If I didn't know it was a remake, Romancing SaGa 2 comes across as a brand new game. Much like Final Fantasy, each entry in the Saga franchise is completely self-contained, making it easy to start with this one. The story focuses on the Empire of Varen and their royal line's quest to call the fiends that have begun growing in number. It seems this is the work of the Seven, legendary heroes from a millennium ago who have returned corrupted and aim to spread chaos throughout the world. But thanks to a mysterious Cirrus, Emperor Leon is able to learn the power of inheritance and pass his abilities down to his son, Gerard. It's a fight that may take generations, but everything that previous emperors or empresses learn will be passed to their successors. It's a fascinating concept, reminiscent in ways to roguelites, though the gameplay is anything but. For my time with the game, it's all about player expression, as like all Saga games, it forgoes typical level progression. If you're not familiar, the Saga series is almost a continuation of the style of gameplay in Final Fantasy II, though heavily refined. Instead of every stat needing to be increased individually, there are main ones that serve as the focus. Every battle earns experience points that will constantly increase each character's HP and BP, with BP serving as the amount of special attacks and magic that a party member can use. Otherwise, the experience goes to the attacks that a character uses. If they use short swords and fire magic in battle, those bars would fill up. With each level they gain, they become more powerful in battle. That also means if a character uses a weapon that they aren't already proficient with, it will do less damage. However, with enough time in battles, I could make them use whatever I'd like. Naturally, I stuck to what they were already good at, as I got a feel for the combat. There are 30 different character classes to choose from, with some being available from the start, while others can be unlocked through side quests. And this goes into the expression I was talking about. There are party members you begin with that cover swords, bows, lances, short swords, and great swords. They're good, but then there are other recruitable members of the Emperor's retinue that can be found at the tavern. I may have a male soldier that excels at certain weapons, but the female soldier specializes in something else. The same goes for the mages and the elemental magic they focus on. And this individuality is pushed even further thanks to character abilities, as each class of each gender has specific abilities that can be unlocked through battle. For example, the male mage recovers BP after battle, while the female mage lowers the cost of BP. So it comes down to which one is better for your playstyle. And this is only the tip of possibilities in my playtime, as Square Enix is promising different races as well, which may further expand the abilities. And that's just the abilities. There are commands as well, and these are learned through glimmers. Glimmers are ideas that each character has, indicated by a light bulb next to their moves. The brighter it glows, the more likely that the character will learn a new move. So suddenly I select the normal bow attack, and instead, the character realizes they can use the double shot move, firing 2 arrows in a single turn at the expense of BP. And this continues for each character with every type of weapon and magic. The more it's used, the more likely a new move is earned, expanding the roster. But this also ties into weaknesses. Every fiend is weak to several different types of magic and physical attacks, and while the extra damage is worth it, hitting the weakness also fills the overdrive gauge. Once it's filled, two characters next to each other in the command line can unleash more powerful versions of their attacks to deal out far more damage in what's called a united attack. And if it's used to finish a fight, there'll be a small bonus to the experience earned. All of these elements create a goal to shoot for, whether it's filling the overdrive gauge, leveling up certain weapons or magic, or learning new abilities. And like many recent RPGs, characters regain all of their health between battles. However, that doesn't apply to BP, making it so I had to manage my usage until I had more BP refilling items. However, don't think this makes the game too easy. If a character falls in battle, it is devastating as they will lose a life point or LP. Each character has a set amount of LP, and if it reaches 0, they're dead for good. It lends a sense of panic to when a character falls, especially because further hits to their body will drain their LP more. And considering each character can only hold 2 items per battle, managing resources becomes a big deal. There's more though, as a fallen party member can disrupt your formation. Battles are still turn-based, but the way your party is arranged affects how enemies attack. In the beginning there are only 2, but more are learned as the game progresses. It's not something I had to think about too often, though I was caught off guard despite being warned about a certain boss. Because of the way I had the party lined up, more characters got hit by a certain attack. I managed okay, but I made it more difficult on myself. It's something to keep in mind. It makes for a fun gameplay loop, but what I truly loved about Romancing SaGa 2 is something that always makes a game click for me. It creates a feedback loop where everything you do is progress. When the game begins, there are some nominal shops to choose from in the capital city of Avalon. Equipment can be bought for the initial party, though armor must be selected carefully as each piece adds to that character's encumbering status. The heavier their equipment is, the slower they'll be in battle. However, there's a town building element where new facilities can be built. The first is a smithy, where the materials that could be found before are finally used to develop new equipment. Then there's an incantations lab that allows players to have other characters acquire spells that were learned by a different party member. So if you want, you can have mages learn a variety of elemental spells and be able to earn proficiency in those, or even have the melee classes get access to magic, that way everyone is capable of healing each other. There are so many possibilities, and I'm still early in the game. While the overworld can't be explored in a traditional sense, there's a map to choose several places to visit, and this is where player choice comes further into the limelight, as these choices can affect the story. Do you directly head to the source of the problem, or do you look into the side quests? And what about your decisions within those side quests? I wanted to help the martial artist who was struggling with a certain fiend, but they begged me not to kill the main threat as they feared it would erode their standing among the villagers they protect. So do you protect their pride, or risk their defeat? It's interesting stuff, each with its own kind of reward. Romancing SaGa 2 Revenge of the Seven also looks great. Developed by Zine, the same team behind 2020's Trials of Mana remake, the game pops with color and even expands the exploration possibilities in dungeons thanks to a jump button. Otherwise, the game features a rebalanced normal difficulty, along with an option to play at its original hard difficulty, high-quality Japanese and English voice acting, and even a rearranged soundtrack, though, again, the original Super Famicom music is available. There's so much more I could talk about with this game, but I'll leave it at this. I just wanted to keep playing, and I truly hope all of you give it a chance as it's available on the PS4, PS5, Switch, and Steam. You can click the link in the description to check out Romancing SaGa 2 Revenge of the Seven for yourself. There's also a Gleam link where you can use the code word 7 for a chance to win some cool prizes. Thanks once again to Square Enix for supplying the early code and sponsoring this video. And thanks to all of you for watching. Remember, be sure to check out the giveaway hosted by Square Enix at the Gleam link below and use code word 7 for a chance to win some cool prizes. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to Good Vibes Gaming, hitting the like button, and ringing that bell. We also have a Patreon at patreon.com/gvgaming with plenty of extra perks. Until next time, bye!